Hello students, my name is Payne and today we're going to be looking at some Ultra League matches featuring the top shelf boss, the main man, CountXevious himself. So XL enjoyers and human walkers rejoice, it's the best time of the year. We're going to take a look at this pseudo ABB lineup of Giratina Origin, Politoed, and Galarian Stunfisk, a lineup specifically designed to counter some of those budget beasts we see running through the ladder like Machamp, like Snorlax, and anything else you might run into. So we're going to take a look at 7 matches today. We're going to see how CountXevious got to that leaderboard slot himself. And like always, if you have any team suggestions, if you want to feature your own battles, check out the Google Docs in the description below. And please feel free to jump into the community and get involved with the Discord. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's jump into the battles. So game 1, we pick up a great lead against Galvantula. Giratina completely walls this thing, beats it in the 0s, the 1s, the 2s, beats it with shield disadvantages. They decide not to swap out, so maybe a bit of a blunder by our opponent. We're going to throw some lunges. We can eat these up. They don't do anything. The attack debuffs are kind of irrelevant. We're still going to one-shot this thing with either of our moves. We'll throw the Shadow Ball out here. Yeah, leaves it with just enough to farm up a second Shadow Ball, so really hard to imagine a lead going better than this. Again, we'll eat another lunge, almost irrelevant because we're going to swap out more than likely with the Shadow Ball saved for later anyways. Yeah, they bring in the Snorlax, we bring in the Politoed. This matchup's a Snorfest, but you know, the Snorlax can't really afford to invest any shields in this matchup, so they're going to want to save it all for the back line, and we win the 0s no problem. So we're going to throw Weather Balls, they're going to throw Body Slams. They can't afford to throw Superpowers, and Snorlaxes aren't generally running Earthquake in this format at all, so Body Slam, Weather Ball, Body Slam, Weather Ball, Body Slam, Weather Ball, you know the drill. You know, there's potentially a way that the Snorlax could, you know, maybe try to invest a single shield to, you know, maybe save a Body Slam for whatever we may have in the back line, but, you know, the chances are it's not going to matter, and it's going to be better just for the opponent to save both of those shields for whatever's in the back line. So if it is a Shadow Machamp or a Machamp in the back, it could potentially be detrimental to us, but it's just a Politoed, so we can chalk this one up. We're going to throw a Weather Ball here. Could have potentially charged to an EQ, but it's very likely that an opponent would have tossed a Weather Ball when they recognized that we were charging up for either double Weather Ball or EQ. So safer just to throw one for sure. We get the shield out too, so it's even better. We eat this Weather Ball, bring in the Stunfisk, and now we just need to get rid of those that shield. So we'll farm up to EQ. We can either toss the Earthquake or try to bait with Rock Slide. Throwing the Earthquake is definitely super risky, so it's going to be much safer just to invest a shield here, farm up to the second Rock Slide, throw Rock Slide 1, throw Rock Slide 2, swap into Giratina, throw Shadow Ball. The Politoed has to invest a shield into one of these Rock Slides, and if this was an EQ, it would just be you know, lights out. So we get the shield, toss the Rock Slide, and then the chip that this does should pretty much close out the game with the Shadow Ball. And that will be lights out for game 1. So good games to our opponent. There's a chance that they could have invested no shields into the Politoed and maybe tried to flip it at the very end, but it's still very unlikely. We can farm this down with Shadow Claw and call it a day. So good games to our opponent. Let's move on to round 2. So round 2, we see a Shadow Machamp lead, and this is perfect. They're going to swap into that Snorlax. They've got a Gengar in the back. This is the team. This is the popular budget non-XL team that you're going to see a lot of the content creators making videos on. It's going to be super popular on the ladder, and this is exactly why Count has crafted this team of Giratina, Politoed, Stunfisk. You know, it's pretty clean. It doesn't get much better than this. So they have to swap out into Giratina. They safe swap into Snorlax. We bring in the Stunfisk. We just toss EQs. They can't afford to invest any shields into the Snorlax, so we're just going to try to chunk it as much as possible. Eating a couple superpowers, even better. That way we can make sure that Machamp gets as least amount of farm as possible off this thing when the Machamp comes back in. Eat another superpower. And we throw a Rock Slide, because that'll be enough to clip it. If they bring in the Gengar, we can farm up to EQ and toss EQ. If they bring in Machamp, we just throw the Rock Slide, and Machamp only gets 2 counters off. So, again, it doesn't get much better than this. So the Machamp comes in, we toss the Rock Slide. Nothing but better than just losing the energy. We bring in Giratina. There goes the Gengar. Politoed comes in, and that's the writing on the wall. We're going to throw Weather Balls at this thing until it dies, and that'll be it. But like I mentioned earlier in the video, this is it's really difficult for this lineup of Machamp, Snorlax, and Gengar to really interact with this team in a meaningful way. There's zero, you know, maybe I shield here, maybe I swap here, I stay here, I don't swap here. There's really just not a whole lot you can do. It's kind of crafted up down to really put a nail in these teams. And even if they lead Snorlax in the lead instead of Machamp, it's still just a matter of switching into that Politoed instead of Stunfisk, and we can really easily create the same outcome by investing some shields into Politoed. So we catch the move on Giratina here. Just a Rock Slide, hurts a little bit, doesn't really matter. We can shield this one, get up to that Shadow Ball, and that will be the end of game 2. So good games for our opponent. Unfortunately, just the way that the team's lined up, there's not a whole lot that they can do, and that'll be that. So let's move on to game 3. So for game 3, we pick up a super unique lead in Darmanitan here. Definitely not one that you can expect to run into commonly on Ultra League Ladder, but this thing does chunk. Those Rock Slides that it'll throw will hurt quite a bit. Shields up the early Shadow Ball, and we'll see if Count wants to invest any shields here to try to maintain parity with the Darmanitan. Eats the Rock Slide, so it's going to be a little bit harder. They flip into a Giratina of their own. So we save that Shadow Ball, switch into the Stunfisk, move the fast move over. So we do have a swap Shadow Ball set up for later. Shadow Balls do hurt, but again, Galarian Stunfisk is such a beast in this meta, so tanky. We're going to throw this EQ. They can't afford to invest the second shield this early, so that's going to maul them down, and then we can Mud Shot down pretty easily. So we're likely going to see what they've got in the back here. It is a Shadow Machamp. That's rough. We do get the Earthquake, so this will demand the second shield, and then we can bring in that Giratina Shadow Ball, and then likely close out the Machamp there. So they go into the Darmanitan, and because of switch timer, we're unable to switch into the Politoed before Darmanitan flips it out. And unfortunately, Giratina dies with that energy. It's a little unlucky, but that's how she goes sometimes. So we need to invest the shields into these Rock Slides because these will hurt quite a bit. The Darmanitan is a super heavy attack weighted Pokemon. Even in a neutral Rock Slide non-stab, still does do a little bit of chunking. So we're gonna toss a Weather Ball here. Close the door on that Darmanitan. Machamp gets to a move first. So we have to shield here. And then whether we can get to a Weather Ball after this EQ to take out this Machamp is really going to be what seals the deal on this round here. Unfortunately, just barely not. So they get to a Cross Chop. This Cross Chop's going to be enough to close the lights on this Politoed. And very good game to our opponent, getting a win with a super unique Darmanitan lead. So we'll hop into the next round. So for round 4, we pick up a Deoxys lead. Again, picture perfect. Deoxys is a lot of things that a lot of people are going to have access to because of the newest raids. They swip into a Jellicent with Bubble, maybe hoping to stress Count into switching early, but super quick top left. And that's, maybe not so much in this scenario because we're definitely going to keep the Giratina in no matter what, but it's very important to show a little bit of patience when your opponent switches those in. What was likely going to happen is opponent was flashing the Jellicent, hoping that we would muscle memory instinctively switch into a different matchup, and trying to set up a better route for Deoxys later on. But Steadfast Count stays in against that Jellicent. Jellicent's got Bubble. It doesn't matter. Giratina's going to eat that Jellicent up. It's going to eat that Deoxys up. And then there's nothing in the back that can survive both Politoed and Stunfisk. So, showing a little bit of resilience, showing a little bit of patience always works out. You definitely don't want to switch into an accidental bad matchup just because it's a fast move you're not expecting. So a quick and easy win, and we're going to hop into the next round. So we pick up a lead against Typhlosion here. Typhlosion, a really interesting pick for this format. Shadow Claw Blast Burn is really going to hurt. You get a great coverage move in Solar Beam. This is a Blast Burn. If we decide not to shield it, it is going to chunk, even resisted. Wow, that thing hurts. So we can get to a Shadow Ball and a half. If the Typhlosion opts not to shield, this will be a very easy KO. Typhlosion, not a very defensive Pokemon. Now, lights out, adios on the Typhlosion. We'll see what they bring in here. They have a Tangrowth, so we can get to a Shadow Ball. Hopefully, we can get to a second one. The Tangrowth, is definitely a bulkier Pokemon, so we're going to try to trip it as much as we can. We don't get to that second Shadow Ball. It's unfortunate, but thankfully, Stunfisk can eat these Power Whips, no problem. We definitely want to try to save as many shields as we can for that Politoed to pair up well against whatever it's got in the back. We'll throw a Rock Slide here. Rock Slide will chip quite a bit. They can't invest the second shield, and they bring in a Roserade. So we can try to catch this Weather Ball here on 3. Decide not to, so we're going to have to invest a shield so this Weather Ball doesn't chunk our Stunfisk a little more than we would want. They throw 1, they throw 2, switch a little bit early, they get to 3-4, and then they get a Weather Storm, so we do have to respect the Leaf Storm rather. So we have to respect the Leaf Storm and shield there. Thankfully, the attack debuff means that the second Leaf Storm, if they get to it, won't KO the Politoed. So we throw an EQ, gets very, very close to KOing. So they're going to get to a second Leaf Storm, but again, with the attack debuff from the first one and the good shield usage there, we do manage to live this. And we do get to a Weather Ball as well. So we can toss a Weather Ball at this Tangrowth. We do have 1.5 Rock Slides ready to go on that Stunfisk. So we can bring the Stunfisk in. They'll have to shield 1, and if we can get to that second one before they can get to a second Power Whip, it's going to be a clean and easy win. If they can get to that second Power Whip, though, that'll be the end. So we get Rock Slide 1. We've got Rock Slide 2 ready to go. It all comes down to whether or not they've got the Power Whip ready. And they do have the Power Whip ready. So a very, very, very close game. Had we been able to catch that Weather Ball in the Roserade, might have been the difference maker, but we'll hop into the next round. So for our next matchup, we pick up a lead against Drifloon. So a Hex versus Shadow Claw, we are going to deal way more damage to this thing with our fast moves, but we do have to respect Icy Wind. Icy Wind will put a big dent in our Giratina. So they throw on charge, so we'll have to invest a shield here. We'll see if Count wants to try to get to a second Shadow Ball. So he's going to throw just before he gets to the Icy Wind, so he leaves himself enough time for one more Hex and to still swap and catch on Icy Wind here. So we get another Shadow Claw, swap, catch the Icy Wind. Is beautiful. You can't draw it up better than this. This Icy Wind does nothing to the Politoed. The attack debuff is largely irrelevant because we can get to those charge moves so fast. They bring in a Galvantula. It goes straight for Earthquake. Shield if you dare. This debuff Politoed, if we do manage to catch the Galvantula on a Weather Ball bait, it'll be devastating for the opponent. So they can't afford to invest a shield. We eat that discharge. It's no problem. Giratina can come in, farm up, and just like in our first round, we can eat any charge move this thing throws at us, no problem at all. So we'll go to farm, and then we're going to throw just before it gets to another fast move so that we can have a healthy of enough Giratina to try to get to a second Shadow Ball if that Drifloon comes back in. Drifloon comes in, Shadow Ball goes out. This will have to eat up a shield from our opponent if they don't want to they don't want to rely on their backline. So they do have to eat up the shield, re-bring in the Stunfisk, Icy Wind again. We can just take this on the chin, not a big deal at all. And they bring in his Stunfisk of their own. So we have a shield advantage in the Stunfisk mirror, so we can throw EQs and secure this matchup easy peasy, but our opponent really has to rely on trying to get a good bait. This is a pretty clear as day Rock Slide. The only way that they can have any hope of winning this is by getting successful bait. They have to throw the Rock Slide. We know they have to throw the Rock Slide, so we can just no shield and throw a second Earthquake and call it a day. So good games to our opponent, but just lined up for us exactly how we would want to. This Drifloon will come in. We can throw a Rock Slide and call it a day. Not before we catch the Icy Wind, just to flex a little bit first though. A Shadow Ball rather. So we catch the Shadow Ball, throw the Rock Slide, and that is going to be it for this round. So very good games, easy peasy. Let's hop into the next one. So for the last round, we pick up a lead against Snorlax. Snorlax usually means counter somewhere in the back line, so we're going to swap into the Politoed to get that out of the way so we don't have to worry about it on Chifisk, and they bring in the Deoxys. So thanks to our energy advantage on Deoxys, they were a little bit slower on the swap here. We actually win this matchup in the zeros, no problem. So we can force the onus on the Deoxys player here to either decide if they want to invest shields to maintain switch advantage, or they can just let the Deoxys go and lose switch advantage. So definitely, very, very great for us. So we can toss this EQ, get us into an endgame scenario where we have back-to-back Weather Balls, and we can force the onus on our opponent on how they decide that they want to handle it. But either way, super, super great for us. Definitely getting more out of this Politoed safe swap than usually we would have any business to, that's for sure. So Weather Ball 1 goes, Weather Ball 2 would be enough to take the Deoxys down. It might live with just a sliver, but I think that it'd be enough, and I think the opponent thinks it's enough too. So they decide to invest the shield. We can bring in the Giratina, farm to about halfway to a Dragon Pulse. They do have back-to-back Psycho Boost ready, but we can just take these on the chin, no problem. These don't hurt that much at all. The second one's going to be even more debuffed, so it'll do even less. And then the Snorlax will come back in, and Count can either swap immediately into the G-Fisk or farm up this Dragon Pulse and throw it. So farms up to DP to throw the DP, definitely going to chunk the Snorlax a little bit more than a Shadow Ball or an Ominous Wind would, and then the G-Fisk comes in. So we have a great shield advantage right now, so Count can afford to go right for the Earthquake. Snorlax could be in a little bit of a detriment, especially if we eat this, we shield this superpower. So investing a shield on the Snorlax here is a bit of a risky move. The opponent decides to opt for it, so they're really relying on their backline to be able to take the match out in a no shields. We can eat this debuff superpower, no problem, and they bring in a Charm Ninetales. So definitely an interesting decision on investing the shield into the Snorlax and not saving it for the Charm Ninetales, but this is going to be a rough matchup for that Ninetales. Shields are no shields, so this is pretty much the writing on the wall. We can shield this up, throw another Rock Slide. Should be enough to take out the Ninetales. Actually going to do a little bit of aggressive farming as well to make sure that they've got a second Rock Slide ready. So Rock Slide 1. Farm it down with Mud Shots, no problem. Have an EQ ready. EQ can eat up the Snorlax, and then we can farm it down with Mud Shots, no problem at all. This EQ is going to deal a chunk. Oh, swaps into Giratina to let Giratina do the dirty work. Say goodnight, Giratina. Body Slam KOing big Giratina Dragon. Who'd have thought? One Mud Shot, that's it. So, thanks so much for checking out this video, everybody. That was the end of Count's round. This is what got him onto Leaderboard. So, if you have any submissions of your own, if you want to highlight your own team, any content ideas, feel free to fill out the Google form in the description box below. Like I mentioned earlier, please get involved with the community, like, subscribe. I hope you like this video. I'm Payne. I'll see you next time.